Welcome back to Best Asian Horror Movies. I'm your host Blinky, and today we're going to be exploring Indonesian horror film Grave Torture. We're also going to be discussing the ancient Islamic texts that inspired the film. At the end of the video, we're going to give the movie our own rating based on story, atmosphere, and cataclysmic terror. Before we begin, please like and subscribe.
Thank you.
2024's Grave Torture is the latest project by Indonesian director Joko Anwar. I was first introduced to his work with 2019's Empedagore, a brutal and chilling folk horror film, which was also my first experience with Indonesian horror. Grave Torture may be my last, because honestly, this movie is so terrifying that it may have given me permanent emotional damage. Spoilers ahead. The film opens with a quiet, seemingly ordinary day in a small bakery where Sister Sita and Brother Adil live and work with their parents. However, their peaceful existence is shattered when their parents are killed in a suicide bombing. The bomber, whose actions are rooted in his belief that the destruction of the innocent will lead to his redemption, leaves behind a disturbing legacy. Before the attack, he hands a cassette tape to Adil, claiming it holds the recorded screams of a sinner enduring grave torture, an agonizing eternal punishment said to await the non-believers. In the wake of their parents' tragic demise, Sita and Adil are sent to a religious boarding school in the countryside, where they are forced to study Islamic texts, including the horrifying concept of grave torture. Sita, who lost her faith after her parents' death, becomes obsessed with disproving the existence of grave torture and even religion as a whole. As they plan their escape, the siblings explore a dark and eerie tunnel where they encounter the tortured spirit of a boy named Ismail. On the day they plan to depart, Adil is taken to the home of the school's owner, a sick and depraved man named Wahyu Sutama, who performs unspeakable acts upon young Adil. Aided by the school's nuns, Sita is able to rescue Adil and escape through the tunnel, the horrifying wails of Ismail echoing throughout, as his tormented soul begs him not to be left behind. Years later, Sita begins working at a local nursing home where she forms connections with elderly residents. Through these interactions, she seeks to learn more about death, religion, and the afterlife, hoping to find evidence that disproves the existence of supernatural punishment. In a shocking revelation, one of her patients, a man named Ilham Sutina, turns out to be none other than Wahyu Sutama, whom Sita had tracked down after the harrowing escape from the boarding school. Sita concluded that if a monster like Wahyu would be spared from grave torture, then it simply could not exist. Sita confronts Wahyu, her brother by her side, revealing her intent to expose the falsities of religious doctrines after his imminent demise. Wahyu mocks her, claiming he's lived his life outside of the mortal boundaries set by religion and society. Before he puts the gun to his head, he tells Sita that if grave torture is real, it will be a reflection of what each person fears the most. In her case, grave torture itself, and therefore religion, being true. In a shocking and claustrophobic sequence, Sita climbs inside Wahyu's grave, buried next to his corpse as Adil keeps watch above ground. She records the night inside his grave, and as she expected, and certainly hoped for, nothing happens. She later takes a recording onto TV, where she aims to prove grave torture is just a hoax, but her video file has been mysteriously sabotaged. Ridiculed and accused of blasphemy, she returns back to the nursing home, still desperate to find answers. Following the gruesome murder of one of her colleagues, it's revealed that her appearance on TV had inspired others to investigate grave torture, with dozens if not hundreds of individuals coming forward with evidence that it is indeed true. Proof of religion and the unholy terror of grave torture overtake the world in a cataclysmic event, with secular citizens realizing their eternal doom. Sita returns to Wahyu's grave, and upon crawling inside, is transported to an otherworldly hellscape. She is forced to return to the tunnel where she and Adil first encountered Ismail, then the bakery where she lost her parents, confronting the lost souls of the innocent and the wicked monsters that torment them. She falls through a nightmarish abyss and awakens inside of Wahyu's grave, next to his rotting corpse. A black serpent climbs into the grave, reanimating Wahyu's body, demanding he declare his faith. A demonic voice bellows out, "Who is your God?" Horrified, Sita bears witness to his corpse being tortured and mutilated, unholy creatures subjecting him to a gruesome and brutal punishment. As the grave begins to crumble, Adil reaches in and pulls his sister out, but as the two run from the graveyard, a second voice calls out to Sita, "Who is your God?" In Islamic theology, the concept of grave torture, known as siksa kubur in Indonesian, refers to the suffering a person may experience in the grave as a result of their actions in life, particularly if they had lived a sinful life or had failed to live according to Islamic teachings. The punishment is believed to occur after death, but before the final day of judgment. In other words, it's a purgatory. The Islamic teachings on grave torture is derived from various verses of the Quran and the Hadith. According to Islamic beliefs, when a person dies, their soul enters a state called barzakh, an intermediary phase between death and final judgment. It's in this phase that some individuals are believed to experience punishment in their graves based on their deeds in this world. The punishment is said to be a form of spiritual and physical suffering, which can include the constriction of the grave, darkness, and the appearance of terrifying figures. The most frequently cited source for the Islamic concept of grave torture comes from the Hadith. The Prophet Muhammad warned that the grave could be a place of either reward or punishment, depending on the individual's actions during their lifetime. In the Hadith, it is said that the grave can crush or squeeze the person if they were sinful, and that the soul may be visited by angels who interrogate them about their deeds. Those who are judged to be sinners may face severe consequences, such as being obliterated by a scourge of fire. Hey, that'd be a great name for a metal band. However, not all Muslims interpret the concept of grave torture literally. Some view it as metaphorical, symbolizing the physiological or spiritual distress one faces before death. Regardless, grave torture is generally seen as a reminder for Muslims to live righteous lives in accordance with the teachings of Islam, so their eternal souls may avoid a dark fate. In the film, Sita hopes that by disproving grave torture and exposing religion as a hoax, she can discourage others from trying to redeem themselves by killing in the name of religion. Here at Best Asian Horror Movies, we're going to be rating our films based on 3 criteria: story, atmosphere, and terror, with each category eligible for a maximum of 6 bloody skulls. Let's discuss the ending here and try our best to explain it, because there are certainly a couple ways to interpret it. Now, one of the most prevailing theories is that Sita died while inside Wayu's grave, as Adil was bitten by a snake and thus unable to rescue her. At the end of the movie, we see Miss Rani picking up her phone as she goes to meet her husband. But earlier in the film, we see her being killed as her face is ripped off by a washing machine. Hey, that'd be a great name for a metal band. So it goes to reason that all of the events between when Sita first climbed into the grave and the end of the movie were part of her grave torture. While she's in the grave witnessing Wayu being obliterated by angels, she does cry out for mercy, repenting for her lack of faith. So we could conclude that she gets, or at least her soul gets, a second chance when the angel asks her directly, "Who is your God?" Overall, I thought it was such an awesome story, but I do have one problem. What happened with Ismail? All that build-up and no payoff. So much of the first act was built around saving the soul of this poor young boy, and we reunite with him briefly at the end, but then nothing. Did they forget to close this loop? Was it cut from the film? Did they run out of money? Joko, what happened? What's the deal with Ismail? Let's go with 5 bloody skulls here. Joko Anwar is a master at creating a chilling, brooding atmosphere. His techniques should be studied in film school. Every set piece, every location, especially the boarding school and the nursing home, were so eerie and haunting. Even the bakery. He made a goddamn bakery scary. No surprise here, 6 bloody skulls. My God, where to begin here? I've seen quite a few films that use the slow burn tension technique to build up to a horrific climax. Films like Audition will lull you into a false sense of security by having almost nothing scary happening in the first half. Grave Torture, on the other hand, wastes no time. You're immediately introduced to the sinister suicide bomber. The pulsing music in the background as he slowly walked over towards Adil put me on edge less than 5 minutes into the film. And then you have the explosion and its aftermath. Sita walking over dozens of mutilated corpses in a scene that felt all too real. From there, we move on to the boarding school, the haunted tunnel, and the evil presence of Wayu Sutama. There are maybe 5 minutes in the entire film where there wasn't something horribly scary or uncomfortable happening. It just never lets up. The revelation that grave torture had been proven to exist and the way it caused society to almost collapse, all while the staunch religious people were cheering for it, felt so apocalyptic. And then, of course, you have the final scene where Sita is trapped in Wayu's tomb, next to him as his face is smashed to pieces by a demonic morning star, only to regenerate so that it could be torn apart by snakes and demons. The look of horror on her face as the glow of the camera reflects off of it. Holy shit. Holy shit, you guys. I've seen a lot of scary movies before, but nothing like this. This makes The Ring look like the goddamn Teletubbies. When the movie finished, I sat on my couch, staring at my TV, trying to digest what I just watched. I was legitimately worried about the future of this channel because I can't even fathom there ever being another movie this scary. And if there isn't, then what's the point of watching horror? This is the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. 10 bloody skulls. Good night.